Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, can you hear me? Can you see me? I'm like, after the last couple weeks of having streaming problems, I kind of don't believe it if it's just if it's just gonna work. Like, have we finally figured out the special sauce combo move I need to do to get this to work appropriately, but it looks like we are. I don't know what Bendita. You were laying all the way over there, tiny doggo. No one can see you. Actually, don't know. I think the camera can maybe rotate over there. She's there. Don't worry. I'm not trying to deprive anyone of seeing doggo. I would never do that. Doggo's too perfect. There she is. She might just decide to lay down over there, which is like unusual. Rare bandita spot happening. Forbidden bandita spot. Hello everyone. How are we doing? What is going on? How is everyone's Friday? Got any fun plans? Anything happening? I guess it's President's Day weekend, which I feel like I remember being a thing, but I'm like, do people celebrate this? Like, is it a holiday? Do people have day off work, time off work for this? I don't remember that being a thing. She is truly and deeply in loaf mode. This is correct. This is simply a true thing. Okay, so before I forget, I'm gonna just go ahead and do our little spiel here at the beginning. So this is an 18 plus only stream. So if you're at least 18, please do not be here. This is for everyone's safety, my safety, your safety, just because I don't think it's a good idea to mix minors and adults together in a conversation about kink and BDSM and such like. If you are younger and you're like, but I think I really want to do this, that's totally fine. I'm not saying that you don't know yourself or that you're too dumb to understand or anything like that. It's just purely a safety thing. There are great resources you can go to that can help you learn more about this. There's places like Sexplanations, which is ran by a professional sexologist, has a couple of videos talking about kink stuff. There are also other websites that are ran by people that are professionals that would be more equipped to help you, things like Scarletine, and there's always good old mental health practitioners, although if you are a minor, disclosure and things could be an issue that is worth considering. So that is that on that. Please read the rules and the FAQ down below. Not as much of an issue these days, thankfully, but if you're coming in here and you're like, how do I talk to my partner about BDSM? What books do you recommend? I probably have that answered in the FAQ down below. And other than that, just be polite, don't spam the chat, don't be rude to me, and just be mindful of what you put in the chat because it does get recorded. These live streams do stay up, so if you're like, hey, I'm from Scranton, I'm from Chicago, and it's associated with your username, just be aware that's going to be up there, and just be nice. It's why do anything other than be nice? Well, this doesn't really get you anything. I'm not going to listen. If you're somebody who has a humiliation fetish and you're like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to make Evie mad, and then she's going to humiliate me, and then I will be rewarded with free humiliation. I'm on to you. I know what's up. I've been on the internet for a long time. I know what your game is. You might be able to pull that one on some other random vanilla female streamer, but I know better. I know your secrets. I know what's going on inside your brain. Okay, you can't trick me. I know what's going on. So don't even start. Is that what Scranton was in my head? Probably. You see, like the neuron activation meme, the one that's like the monkey. I love that meme. It's a great one. No, they're not separated. They're not separated separately. I always remember MLK Day being its own thing, but now the president's birthdays are just like one day because too many holidays, I guess. I don't know. We had to make room for some other ones on the calendar, I suppose. Incredibly curious about the BDSM harem possible topic of discussion. Yes, so I will say that, as usual for my streams, I like to put some ideas in the title or like current topics that have been going on, things on my mind, as just suggestions for possible things to talk about. We don't always end up talking about any of them, all of them. we often go off on like little rabbit hole tangents into all kinds of fun other territory that is completely not what I expected to talk about. But I've been thinking a lot recently about like the intersection of BDSM and polyamory and the lack of content and advice and just knowledge about that in general. And I thought it could be fun to talk about that and maybe some of the specific ways that non-monogamy shows up in BDSM, and obviously polyamory and non-monogamy are not synonymous. And honestly, I'm very surprised that no one got mad at me in my most recent video that I made about polyamory, not yelling at me for being like, you said polyamory and then you said non-monogamy, they're not the same. And like, I said polyamory in the video because the people that were reacting to the content kept calling it polyamorous and making judgment calls about polyamory or polyamorous people when the subject of the video itself doesn't actually identify as polyamorous. So it got confusing language-wise, but I am aware that they are different. I could bring up my council of partners to be like, wait, I have to cancel my polyamory cards, or I have to break up with at least a couple of you. Sorry, I can't. I don't make the rules. I said non-monogamy instead of polyamory, and the guy, oh no, I'm sorry. By the law of the polyamorous council, I have to rescind all of my relationships except for one. So fight to the death. Whoever wins. That got really dark at the end. I don't know why I went for that. No fighting to the death. If I had to make anyone compete for anything, well, first of all, I would never do that because that's. If you feel like you need to make a partner or partners compete for you because you want to figure out who is the best one, you need to check yourself. But if I had to do that, it would probably be some kind of like arts and crafts project. Like I'd be like, make me a cool thing. You know, that would be my situation. Also, Bendita in ideal snoozy mode. So cute. I'm still petitioning for the Commonwealth of VA to have 260 holidays. 1 to 2 days of work is enough. Truly, in the age of remote work and all of our wonderful productivity technology, there's no reason why 90% of, like, I guess, would that be white collar jobs, like, can't be done in, like, a long weekend amount of time. We should have 3 days of work and 4 days to, like, fuck off and do whatever. Imagine if every weekend you could have a vacation. You have 1 day to travel, 1 day to be fully present at the thing, and then 1 day to drive back. And to me, that indicates we need to always have a 3-day weekend at the least. But, you know, I'm not good at that. So cute. Okay. And as always, we do a little BDSM Q&A here, so feel free to ask your questions. I'm just going to make sure I haven't missed any early questions, because we love our early crew. They come in, they hang out, and they ask questions, and then we answer the questions. President's Day weekend? President's Day sure, but weekend? I don't think anyone celebrates that. Well, okay. I think I'm calling it President's Day weekend because all of the advertisements in my email have been like, President's Day weekend, get 15% off this thing at Best Buy or whatever. Yeah. I know, she's in full loaf mode today. Who assumed I was in my early 20s. I mean, that's a compliment if you're going to be 35 in July. I don't know. I feel like no one can ever guess my age. I feel like I get it all over the place. Like, I feel like people used to try and insult me when I first had a YouTube channel when I was like 22 by telling me I looked like I was 35. And I'm like, have you seen that baby face? Like, that's not a 35-year-old. But I feel like now, I don't know. Also, with, like, not wearing makeup and having, like, dark circles because I turbo-fucked my sleep schedule again. I don't know. I'd be happy with anything near my age. That would be fine. People are bad at guessing ages. Did anyone ever watch that, like, British TV show? It's the one where, like, you'd have a person and you put him in, like, a box in the public street. I think they even did, like, an American version of this, too. Where they put somebody in, like, a glass box in, like, a busy street. And then they'd have, like, random people come up. And they'd be like, how old do you think this person looks? And then somebody would they'd say, and then they'd describe, like, talk about their outfit, how they dress. And it was literally just a show to like shame people into being more fashionable. And don't get me wrong, I loved What Not to Wear. I love that show. I think now that I'm older, I'm like, that was a little problematic. There's some things in there I don't like. But I feel like when you have, honestly, great idea for public humiliation policing. That's why they did it. British people love two things, okay? This is like, there's three things that make the scene in the UK, like, very distinct from the scene in the US. One, different venues, okay? Most venues I know of in the UK are, like, bars, and it's very, like, alcohol, like, drugs are, like, much more normalized in more scenes in the UK. Here, it's much more regional, and most places are not, like, combining alcohol and kink together. Two, it's in the pansexual BDSM scene. Gay scene, a little bit different. Two, femdom shit. Oh my god, they love nannies and like school marms and like mean older women. They are horny for that, okay? If you want to go be a mean lady somewhere, the UK is a great place to do it. Three, they love humiliation. And I feel like that a lot of people love humiliation. I feel like the UK takes it to the next level. They like public humiliation. Like commenting on people's bodies and how they dress. Like if they can do it in a passive aggressive way, they like love it. They love it so much. But those are my very biased observations as an American. I'm mostly joking. Wasn't that a David Blaine thing? They also like T. Crumpets and Monty Python, so I hear. Yeah, they love Doctor Who, and Marmite, I guess. Which, high in B12. Hard to argue with that. You know, gotta get your B12, especially when you're living in that kind of environment, not necessarily getting a lot of sunlight. Listen, I'm right there. I think we're basically on the same latitude. I understand. I feel like it was something about a box. I don't remember what the title of that show was. British show where people are in a box. There's one where it's like Naked Attraction or something, where it's like they slowly reveal somebody's naked body. That is not it. Naked Attraction is not the one I'm thinking of. No, Normal People is just like a regular regular show. People are in a box. Guess how old they are. Oh no. God, there's too many. Oh, there's Guess My Age, but that was like a recent thing. There's too many. They have too many TV shows. What I lie to you is absolutely not. Listen, I know a thing or two about British television. What I lie to you is not the show I'm thinking of. Anyways, doesn't matter. I want to say I've seen a YouTuber do a video about this show before. I can't remember who it was, though. I remember the video. It was funny. Anyways, somebody will remember. Marmite is the leftovers from brewing beer, I want to say. It's yeast. It's literally like leftover dead yeast made into a sticky spread, and it's very contentious. You're definitely not on the same latitude as in English and North. They're like within one latitude of us. I'm pretty sure. I'm not gonna say that they're on the exact same latitude, but like we're definitely within like one. I'm fairly confident. I can't for some reason find a globe that like shows me the thing I'm thinking of. No, we totally are. We are totally on the same latitude. Yeah, okay. Maybe not all of America, but the I don't know if it's the 50, it's 50 55, the 55th latitude. I don't know what units these are denominated in. The 55th parallel? Like goes like right through like northern. Oh, wait, this map actually shows. Okay, so where I live is like in the ocean. like sort of, it's like between like the middle part of France and like England. So like we're within like 10 degrees of each other. So get at me. That's basically the same, and we're in the same climatic region, I'm pretty sure. And I don't know, fight me, I guess. Like, oh no, on the stream, I said that we were on the same latitude when really we're within 10 degrees of each other, and the weather is literally identical. And, like, I don't know. Like, there's a reason why Twilight was set where I live. Like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Okay, let's get into some questions, and I'm getting stun locked about basic geography. I feel like people knew what I said, though. You guys knew what I meant. If you guys don't think that Seattle and like the Pacific Northwest and like England famously have similar weather, I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry to think you have the gift of opportunity. One of the themes suggested is related to things I'm writing, so I'll be making a question for sure. I am apparently very good at like making videos and then not only making them and then releasing them at the exact time somebody is thinking about them. That's like one of my, I don't know how I do that. I apparently just like cyclically like link with one member of my audience every time I release a video to like make that exact video at the time they're thinking about it. But only one at a time. Never, it's only ever one person. I'm so very excited. Tasting party tomorrow evening, followed by a play party. My first one. Ooh, congrats, Nimrod. That's so exciting. Going alone, but it's cool. Already vetted via my local Munch members. Well, you did the important step. You went to a Munch, you got vetted, and or the event got vetted. Hopefully it'll be a fun one. I love tasting parties. They are like, if I could like wave a magic wand and I only had the power to make one kind of lame rule about like a tiny minor thing you'd want to change about the types of play parties that happen at BDSM events, I would choose to have way more tasting parties. I feel like education wise, most places are pretty good. We have tons of books, online classes, YouTube videos, podcasts, sassy Twitter accounts, all different ways to learn about like how to do kink. But having a place where you can safely and like this fun like carnival type environment, like just try non-committally a bunch of different kinks, I feel like that is an experience you can't really substitute that with anything. You can kind of try things on yourself, but like especially when you're new and you don't really know anyone yet, like how do you know that the random guy who approached you like knows how to actually do a flogging? Like you don't really know. You haven't really done it yet. But having an event that has vetted people who know what they're doing, who know what they're talking about, who are presumably like safe players, be able to do all of that for you and like do that kind of base work and then let you just kind of flit around and try different stuff, especially things that you might not even know about, you never heard of it before. Like take every opportunity you can. So have a great time. Definitely, if you can, pack some aftercare stuff because tasting parties, though they are lighter, more fun scenes, it's kind of like, it's a whirlwind, you know? Like, you know how after Christmas, there's that lull between Christmas and New Year's where it's like, that was really fun and that was a lot of work and now I'm drained. Like, that's what happens where it's like, it's really fun, you do a lot, lots of energy, lots of different people, and also that's like, I guess that's one of the big downsides of most tasting parties. I don't know any of them that have like contingency for like longer aftercare with players. Like the most recent thing I've been to that was like that, they didn't even really call it a tasting party, but included like a tasting party as an element of it, is they actually had like aftercare bottoms. Like if you needed aftercare after something, but the top had like a line of people, there was a bottom that could come with you and like do the like talking about what just happened, you know, listening to you, getting you a snack, getting you a blanket. Like that was their job. And I love that. I want to do that every weekend of my life. That sounds like I would love to do that. That just is, that's my personal goal. I don't know. But good luck. Good luck. One station is flogging, another electroplay, another is rope bondage, etc. You just try the stuff you want to do and skip the stuff you don't want to try. Yeah, like it's like it is like a carnival. So to I guess maybe explain what a tasting party is. It's a BDSM party where instead of like people negotiating full-on scenes with each other, you have like stations set up where different pre-selected tops will offer tiny tastings of like a sample at a grocery store, you know, equivalent of that with like a different implement or a scene type. Usually impact play is really popular, but you also see like bondage, latex, electroplay definitely as well, like was already mentioned. Wax play sometimes, body writing, things like that. Just totally depends on like who's in your local scene, like what's like legal where you live too. Like that's also a factor. And they're fun. Just very nice little non-committal thing. Moving truck? I don't know what that was. That was a big noise. After putting together a small aftercare kit, just in case I get overly excited and try something, even though I plan on first one just hanging out. Okay, yeah, totally, just hanging out, you know, but also plan for the eventuality. So all kinds of smart things going on there. Good stuff. Event idea, tasting party, but instead of kink, each station is an amazing food. Oh, wait, did I just describe a regular party with food? Okay, wait, I know how to make that kinky. Tasting party, but instead of kink, each station is amazing food prepared by a service submissive, and they feed it to you by hand and or off of their body. The end. Okay, there you go. Free idea for your next kink event. Oh my god. Speaking of humiliation, it means my husband has been saying, don't worry, kids to me lately, like the Discord meme. That's the kind of thing that starts ironically and then becomes non-ironic. You gotta be careful with that. Gotta be careful with the meme kinks where you're like, oh no, you're not really my daddy. It's just funny to joke about you being my daddy. And then like suddenly you're like, oh no, wait, I actually have now it's a kink for real. Not based on personal experience, but you know, general observation there. I love the idea of like a poly fight club though. Would be funny. True. I want to go to that one. Well, we could do like saran wrap bondage. Okay. Definitely food off of naked people is like actually naked people. That would be a problem. But okay, what if we made it even kinkier by mummifying the person in saran wrap first? And then we put the food on top of the saran wrap. Could we vibe with that? Would that be a fun time? You just hear the event organizers going, write that down, write that down. Oh yeah. That would be great. I've seen people do stuff like this at like private parties, but not like an actual venue. I feel like imagine doing kinky brunch, okay? We're like, what do we do on a Sunday? How can we have an event that people who work odd schedules can go to? Kinky tasting brunch, where instead of having buffets, the people are in saran wrap bondage, and then you serve food off of them, and or they feed it to you by hand. And like the usual stuff where it's like people with like the serving platters, like little mimosas or whatever. And then like there's cigar smoking or something outside. I don't know. Get something for the leather people in there. I feel like that would be a great scene. Listen, I don't even know. I'm just overwhelmed with ideas for things I wish could be real, but are not, in fact. Okay. Let me get into some questions here. I accidentally went to the bottom of the chat, so forgive me. I'm trying to find things. Also, if you want to make sure I see your question, if you have the capability to, if you put like the red question mark emoji or like the red question mark like exclamation point emoji, I forget, there's like a specific term for that punctuation mark, and I forget what it is. I say it's with an E. I don't know. They put one of those in there, or like at me, like at Evie Lupine. It'll highlight it, and then I can like see it more easily. You don't have to do that. I'll see your question anyway, most of the time. But it helps me when I'm trying to scan for something, like find it like very quickly. I have a question. I've been somewhat casually, in the sense we don't see each other often or talk often, but when we do, it's deep for 5 months. It's the first time someone can tell I'm into BDSM. Ooh. I think I need to casually bring in the fact that I'm into BDSM and practicing it, but it feels weird. I don't feel obligated, but I want to. It's weird if he doesn't know otherwise. I mean, if you've been talking for a couple months, I know it's hard when it's somebody that you don't talk to super often. I feel like if you talked every day, it's like it would probably come up at some point, like more naturally. But if you're more in that vibe of like, oh, we don't talk all the time, but when we do, we talk for like hours or like we get into really deep stuff, like hopefully you have a level of trust built up in that relationship to where like this isn't going to be like the first like personal piece of information that you share about yourself where it's like a personal opinion or like something that like is risky and requires some level of trust to talk about. But the advice that I always give to people, and I'm sure you've probably heard this because you've been on the streams before a couple times at least. I've seen your name a lot, actually. I shouldn't even say a couple times. It's been a lot. I always recommend like just not making it a big deal. I think if you overthink it and you try like make it seem like it's a big thing, people understand it as like being a big deal, and then that influences their response to what you're talking about. So don't create a self-fulfilling prophecy of like this is a big deal and like could rock our whole relationship or like our future or anything. Like if you're just like see, I don't know if even like talking casually, like I don't know if the topic of like sex has come up before or like fantasies. Like for me, it's really easy if like the topic of like sex and sexuality, intimacy has been broached, because then it's like super easy to like talk about kink because it's kind of part of that whole world. But also, because this is my job and it's unavoidable, like kind of everyone I talk to knows that I like kink is a part of my life, so I can't really get around. That. But yeah, I feel like okay. I think it's also worth asking the question, like, if this person's gonna have like a major freak out reaction about kink, isn't it better to know sooner rather than later? Because if they're gonna have a big freak out and they're gonna be like, I can't talk to you because you're too weird, or like, this doesn't sit right with me, or whatever, I think it's probably better to know that sooner instead of like investing more time into it. And I guess if it is a big part of your life, like you might feel weird about that being like a big secret. Like if I was talking to someone and then like I didn't know that like they like had a side hustle, like working at a strip club or something, and then we were talking for like 6 months before I found out, and I found out by accident because they like posted something on a social media account, like I'd be like, why didn't you just tell me earlier? Like why was this a big deal? But yeah, I'd probably bring it up. But I wouldn't necessarily make it a whole big thing, like unless you want it to be like a whole little like, discussion about the nature of kink and sexuality and everything. I'd probably just be like, hey, just I also like recommended in the past like different media and things like that, like introducing maybe like Secretary or like some other movie or TV show or like a comic book that has kink in it. And then like using it as like a springboard for a conversation. But also like I feel like kink stuff is kind of like in the news a lot now. I feel like there's all kinds of like news articles and things I see about like or like even famous songs too. There's one that came out recently that's by a guy who I think is a TikToker. He has like TikToker energy. The one that talks about choking. What the fuck is that guy's? Why is my brain stuck on Sam Collins? That's not who I'm thinking of, I don't think. What song am I thinking of? My brain is just like not operating on full capacity today, apparently. It's the one about choking. What? There's also apparently just a band called Choking Victim. I don't really know how else to find this song. Is it like is the song called like Whips and Chains or something? I've heard this at the gym before. Oh, it's Jack Harlow. I don't know where why did I get Sam from that? I don't know. It's called Lovin' on Me. Or maybe there's another song called Whips and Chains. That's a different thing. But I think it's called Lovin' on Me. That, they're talking about choking in it and how it's vanilla, apparently. Also, my dog disappeared from the camera. Where'd she go? Oh, she went to her bed. I totally missed it. I've been looking at my floor in my office. That's not fun at all. There we go. Now we get to see the potato in her potato field, as is her natural environment. Yes, TikTok energy is a devastating insult. Yes. Yeah, it's Jack Harlow. Yeah. But you should be given the option of walking away if it upsets him. Sad that people can be closed-minded that way, but some people are. That is also true, too, right? Like, especially if you're going in a relationship direction, then if kink is a part of your life that you want to have be in your life and you're currently having it in your life, like, concealing information from them is, like, technically depriving them of information that could be, like, relevant to their relationship decision-making criteria. I don't see, like, I guess I don't know, like, with all the kinky people I know, it's, unless they're talking about like a marriage or like some, like with somebody who's like very, very vanilla and they have like a pre-existing marriage, like most kinky people, I think tend to be most attracted to other people that are like at least kink adjacent or kink friendly, because there's just enough other similarities there to where I find it difficult to believe that you would be like very compatible in like a ton of other ways, and then like kink is like somehow out of nowhere like a complete hard no. Jack Harlow is an AI bot with a human skin suit, and you can't convince me otherwise. Wow, tell me how you really feel. Only song Jack Harlow has done that I like is the one that is actually a Lil Nas song. Yeah, Lil Nas is good. I couldn't tell you any of his songs by name, but I think I like them because he's done ones where he's like a demon in hell and stuff, and I feel like that's always a good aesthetic vibe. Yeah. So I'm in college right now. My class went to a lunch. A classmate mentioned some wild video she saw about Japanese rope stuff, and I was like, Shibari? And everyone was so confused except for one. Well, I think you know who you want to be closer friends with in that group. I can't even imagine that happening when I was in college, because I ended up, I was part of a dry dormitory where we had to, our dorm floor, everyone pledged like sobriety and to not have alcohol anywhere on the floor. Like, it was a whole thing, which I feel like was like I like that concept going into it, because being asexual the way that I am, I was like, I don't want to have people like having parties and like having sex around me all the time. So this seems like a good way to avoid that. I ended up being around a bunch of Swifties. It was like a floor of like 10 Swifties, like concentrated Swifties. Every single one of them in the school that was a freshman was in that dorm. And I cannot even imagine what would happen if like Japanese rope bondage like became a thing. I don't even know. Like, if that was a thing that got brought up as a topic, I think their brains would probably melt. And then one of them ended up being my roommate in sophomore year as well. And then we had roommate problems, and that's a whole other story. College. I loved college, actually. I would go back in a heartbeat, but I gotta pay off my school debt first before I think about going back for round 2. Because that's what being American is all about. I'm convinced they call it remote work because the chance of me doing work at home is remote. I've heard that sentiment before, but all the studies show that workers are more productive and get more work done, at least in most sectors, when they're working from home. Which maybe tells you how much bullshit happens at an office. I can certainly think of my old job being like, there was a lot of bullshit that had to happen to like fill up the day. It's a lot of bullshit happening. Because there's only so much actual work you can do before it becomes somebody else's thing. And then, like, eventually you get through all of it. And then, what are you going to do after that? Oh, the Pink King podcast is here. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. Someone told me I looked like I was 26 while on a cruise. I just turned 32. Well, congratulations. Yes, being 35 is not an insult either. Well, it's an insult when you're 21 to be told that you look like you're 35. Is that in human years or puppy years? Listen, a lady never tells. I can relate to you on all the over-the-place sleep schedule. Currently trying to get it back on track. I made the mistake of, I woke up, I think, pretty early one day this week, and I had like a sip of an energy drink too late in the evening, and then it was over. I've been paying for it ever since. I really gotta like, and then they taste good, so then I want to have like another sip, and then it's bad. It perpetuates itself. Because I don't really drink them because I don't really have enough to necessarily feel the caffeine in like a bouncing off the walls kind of a way. Like I will literally have a couple of sips and it's enough to keep me awake, but not so much that I'm like, I got crazy energy, you know? Good question. When going from bedroom to 24/7 TPE, can the sub retain their personality? By that I mean, would still want them to have their own opinions and likes rather than changing to what I like. A great question. So it depends on the relationship. I would say the vast majority of people I know that do total power exchange, which is what TPE is, have their submissive retain their personality. I do know people where it's like, I'm a doll and I'm being reprogrammed, or like I'm a bimbo and like my brain is like getting erased and like I'm just whatever my dom wants me to be. And like some people that's like specifically their kink, like they are into like the mind wiping, I am only a vessel for like my partner's desires. And there are also people who will say, especially more in, I would say like master slave dynamics, where it's like, oh, the slave should like just learn to like whatever the master likes, and you know, they should like subsume their will and desires and opinions and likes to like what their partner likes. And that works for some people, but I think over the long term, for a long relationship, most of the time there's some wiggle room there that maybe doesn't get acknowledged, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, I think it's not by default. That would be, it's definitely idealized in like erotica and other material, but in real life with actual people, most people in 24/7 TP, they like their submissive's personality, especially the people I know who are educators that have 24/7 TPE. Like the submissive usually has like a pretty strong personality, and she's like, or he even as well. I think most educators I know that I'm thinking of are like male dom female subs, or like female dom female sub, but this goes regardless. Like they have a strong personality, they're like go-getters, they, you know, then that's what their partner likes about them. They don't want to get rid of it, they want to like utilize it for their own gain, you know what I mean? But yeah, you definitely still have them retain their personality. You can make little shifts though if you want. I feel like that's where the fun part is like those little petty things that people get really amped up about online, like the proper way to cut a sandwich, like which direction you cut it in, or how to load a dishwasher, or pineapple on pizza, or like the way, this is always one that like I don't get at all, is the toilet paper roll, like going over or under. I could not tell you in the bathrooms of this house which way which toilet paper roll goes. I have no idea. I never think about it, but apparently people have opinions about this. So it's like those kind of little things I think can be fun to play around with, where it's like, all right, here's like a dumb inconsequential thing, like the direction the toilet paper goes. We're gonna make it so everything in the house goes the way that I want it to go. Or even at your house, if you live separately, right? When I come over, I want it to be this way. And it's not really like changing their personality. It's just like playing around with a kind of inconsequential way of like having control over their life that proves like, oh, I have authority. You're going to do what I want because it's what I want. But we're not getting into territory of like mind wiping, become my drone type thing. The TP educators I've met and seen have usually had the same. Yeah, it's all just a balance of what it works. And that's not true because I do plenty of productive and positive things for both him and the community. Toilet paper goes over. Is there a reason for why like under or over is supposedly better? Like why? I don't know. I don't get it. I mean, what if you're one of those people who doesn't even put it on a roll and you just like a holder? You just like have it like in the restroom. Like you just have it there. That's the pure chaos. That's what brats do. It's the brat test. But yeah, great question. Thank you, Justice. Question from Cephalop Oliver. With, I think that's a squid. Is that a cuttlefish? Is that a cuttlefish avatar? Love it. Two of my best friends are a couple, and I have a hunch they might be kinky. I'm nervous to go to kink events by myself, so I want to see if they want to go with me, but not sure if there's a good way to ask. Okay, so you think they're kinky. They don't know if you're kinky or not because that conversation hasn't come up yet. You want to go to an event, but you don't want to go by yourself. So you gotta like, I feel like if I was gonna have that conversation, I would not insinuate that I think they're kinky. I would not like put that out there. Because I've known so many couples, especially online, where like people are like convinced they're like secretly kinky, where it's like, oh, you have like a secret DDLG relationship, oh, you're like totally kinky, but they're just like actually vanilla, and they have what I would call like a proto kink relationship, where this is like the kernel that like kink can evolve from, or like a fossil, like a fossil Pokemon, where it's like, this is the kernel that it can evolve from, but it doesn't always actually turn into actual kink. It's just the way that some people relate to each other. So I wouldn't insinuate that. I would just bring up, you know, I guess I would probably, I would not go to a dungeon party. I would, like, if you wanted to go to a munch, I feel like that would be perfectly fine. Like, you could say, hey, you know, I don't know if you're friends with both of them, or like, I don't know how your communication with the two of them works out, but you know, modify this as necessary. I'd probably say something like, hey, I found this cool event that I want to check out. It's something called a munch, and it's a meetup. It's at like whatever, it's at this pizza place or wherever it is, and I want to go check it out. And the it's actually for people that are into kink stuff, and I think I might want to try to explore that, but I'm nervous about going by myself. I don't want to be alone. Would you like be willing to do me a favor and like come with me for moral support? You can be on the other side of the restaurant if you want. You can go like order your own pizza. Just like, I don't want to be totally alone, and in case things don't work out, I want to be able to like scram and like go hang out with people that are cool. Like, I wouldn't even presume that they're kinky, or like even necessarily try to involve them in the kink activity. Just like frame it as like, I want moral support, I want somebody to go with me. And then they might take that and go, well, actually, we're kind of curious about trying that too, or we've been to them. They tell you they've been to the munch, or they're like, oh no, we totally go with you, like, it's no, we're happy to hang out with you, you know, we don't want to be separate, whatever. And then I think that would be the way that I would probably ask it. I've never, like, tried to take a vanilla person to a kink event. At least not a vanilla person that wasn't, like, very enthusiastic about, like, trying kink. Like, I've definitely dated people and been around people that are, they're vanilla, they haven't done anything kinky, but when the opportunity presents itself to go to a kink event, they're like, please take me, I want to go, let's go, amazing, cool. And hopefully you can kind of tell by their reaction to like the concept and the language you're using, you might be able to suss out if they're privately kinky. But also, a lot of people are privately kinky and like don't know anything about like the public scene or the community or like the terminology we use or anything like that. So you can't necessarily say just by that, but it might help you a little bit. Might help you figure out a few things. The roll over is the correct form, but under is better if you have little kids or pets in the house. I see. Yeah, ask her why she's obsessed with you. Like, why are you like so obsessed with me? I'm like on the brain of thinking about like emotional scene ideas. I'm like, oh, that would be a fun scene. Just doing a scene where you're like a mean girl and like you're accusing the loser girl of like being obsessed with you and like being a lesbian for you, but then like really you're secretly the big lesbian. I feel like that would be a very fun scene. Maybe that just speaks to my personal taste. I don't know. My owner gets off work in an hour and a half. We'll be home in 2 hours. Do I start dinner or do other chores? I feel like 2 hours. It depends on what you're cooking for dinner. I feel like I would start doing other chores and I would start doing dinner like an hour before they come home. Because you want it to be hot. Unless your partner is like, oh, like you can just keep it warm for me in the oven. Like that's fine. Like 2 hours. If you're only cooking dinner for 2 hours and it's done 2 hours after you start, you've like made something pretty fancy. Yeah, she loves rubbing her nose in the carpet and like, I don't know, I don't necessarily think she's itchy, but she does like to just roll around in things. Is it used as a sauce? A Marmite is used mostly as a spread, I want to say. Like on toast, like crackers and stuff, and maybe sandwiches. I definitely remember when I was in the UK, I definitely remember seeing like Marmite and cheese sandwiches, like at like grocery displays. The US Canada border is 49 degrees. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking of like when I live farther north. In my brain, I haven't like moved south at all. I'm just like in the same place because it feels like I basically haven't moved anywhere. Um, Ooh, good question. What do you think about poly versus mono in the scene? I'm mono, as in monogamous, but my impression is that there are many more poly folks in the scene due to selection effects. Ooh, getting statistical with it. So we don't have any data about this. I know one person, actually, I've interviewed her, um, who has done some like cursory survey research, but I don't think she talked about polyamory and like and kink at all. My understanding is the picture of the iceberg I have in my head is that the vast majority of people who do kink, not people who self-identify as kinky, not people who like go to events, just like the people who have tried kink activities, far and away like 99% monogamous, because like polyamorous people, I think it depends on how you define it. If we're just talking about just polyamory, that's probably like 1 to 2% of the population, and like any form of non-monogamy, including like swinging, that's probably I think like more like 4 to 5%. Um, so you have open relationships with polyamory, you have kink, you have all that stuff. Kink, as you get more narrow in like what it means, you get fewer and fewer people. So like people who have ever tried kink, that's like any kink activity ever. Uh, that's I want to say it's between like 15 like 20% of the population, maybe like 25%. I know I did research on this before, so but it's been a while, so I don't have the numbers on top of my head, but it's like somewhere around there. And then when you get into people that like participate in kink in their private lives, that's like 5 to 10%. And then we get into people that are participating in the kink scene, that's 1 to 2%. Um, if you went back to school, what do you think you would study? I don't know. I've been thinking about that. I was like public health, maybe get a master's in public health and like focus on like kink and like STDs and stuff, or sexology, or is it like sociology or like anthro or something. But honestly, I'm not really that drawn to like anthro or sociology. I'm much more of like a psychology, sociology, like psychology, like public health stuff, and yeah. But yeah, you have like it's very, very, very small. Like polyamory is also very, very small. So you do have like kind of two really small groups, but the vast majority of people that do kink in private, just in their homes and at all ever in their life, are all monogamous. Like by far and away, they're all monogamous. But when you think about the nature of the kink scene as a community, there's a lot of stuff in it that would be very violating to a lot of monogamous people, right? Like even just like events that play like porn in the background. Like every once in a while, I'm like confronted with the reality that there's like a sizable amount of monogamous people, not all of them, but a sizable amount that consider watching porn to be cheating, masturbation to be cheating, finding anyone else attractive to be cheating. So even having like friends of like the gender you're attracted to is dicey for a lot of folks. So that's sad to me. I'm like, why can't people have friends? It's so sad. Sometimes you have friends and you meet, and it shouldn't matter. But anyways, it's not really important to this conversation. So there's lots of factors that would make the public scene very uncomfortable for like stricter monogamous people because of the open nudity, the sexuality, the sex acts that happen sometimes. Like just the openness of it, I think makes people uncomfortable. Even if like, I mean, I've never been to a BDSM event and like been propositioned for like a threesome or joining a scene, and that's never happened. I'm not saying it never happens anywhere, but I haven't experienced that, and I don't think it's that common of an experience. Like people tend to kind of be in their own groups, but there is a lot of openness with like nudity and like positive body touching and like people casually engaging in things that for monogamous people would like not be okay. Like when I lived in Seattle, I knew a couple. They'd been married for a long time and they were totally fine. doing scenes with other people, even with like out having their clothes on, but it was very like only very specific scenes, and always like non-sexual, and like only like the wife would only play with women, and like vice versa. So yeah, I don't really know why I brought that up as an example, but yeah, I think it's probably the case that in the public scene, a lot of the stricter monogamous folk, which is a pretty good percentage of them, are just like opting out of like participating because it's totally beyond anything they'd be comfortable with. So you have people that are in the scene that are monogamous, and they are definitely, I don't know, I would say like polyamory, like actually dating multiple people and like having multi-partner relationships. That's gonna be, it's definitely more than in everyday life. I would say it's probably like 15 to 25%, probably. I'm probably closer to the lower end of that, probably more like 15 to 20%. I definitely know people that are polyamorous in the kink scene. What I find more often is people are other flavors of like non-monogamish, right? Like, oh, we'll do pickup play scenes like nude with our friends. Like, is that strict monogamy? Maybe not. If you engage in small penis humiliation with a woman who's not your wife, is that monogamous? Probably not. So I just find that to be very interesting, like how different people kind of think about monogamy versus not monogamy, like polyamory versus monogamy, like where they fit in that spectrum. I think if we're including all of like monogamish stuff, it's probably like 35% maybe, but like strict polyamory is probably more like 20, if I had to guess. The vast majority of people are still monogamous. It just, they are comfortable with a wider range of things that like strict monogamous people maybe wouldn't be comfortable being around. But it totally depends on where you live and what age group you're in, and so many things. So I can't even necessarily make definitive statements. Where I live, I feel like is very polyamorous. Like Oregon, Washington, like the West Coast in general, I feel like is very polyamorous. I feel like if you were in like South Dakota or Arkansas, probably wouldn't be as monogamous in the scene. But I don't know. I've never been to the scene in Arkansas before, so don't quote me on that. It just seems like that's an idea that maybe isn't as widely disseminated. It is weird how much more common unhealthy definitions of cheating are these days. Yeah, I mean, I think people are, I don't know, here's my very broad brush tinfoil hat theory for like, why is it this way? I think that there are a lot of people that struggle with feeling secure in their everyday lives and like emotional security in general. And in order to feel more secure, they engage in a lot of behavior monitoring. And because of how much more surveillance you can do thanks to technology, like you can check people's emails and text messages and their search history and their YouTube watch history, and you can track their location on your phone. Like, there's so many more opportunities to like know everything that's going on in your partner's brain, everything they're doing all hours of the day. And I think people don't know how to say no to that because it's like, well, if the information is there, why don't you just look? Like, what's the harm in it? So people kind of get into the state of like monitoring their partners very heavily. And I think that breeds a level of mistrust. And then we just don't know how to have, we don't know how to have healthy conversations about porn or masturbation. And a lot of people consider it to be like a replacement for sex, or only something that happens when your partner isn't satisfied with you, or if they're masturbating, they're like taking away from you because they're stealing an opportunity that you're owed as their partner, spouse, etc. And that kind of mentality is very prominent, where it's like, oh no, you're masturbating and that must mean that something about me is like bad or not hot enough, and or you're doing it and then you're taking away something that I'm owed. You're not giving me, what the Song of Solomon says you should be doing. That sort of, I mean, the Puritans probably would have gotten rid of the Song of Solomon, let's be honest. But that idea, I think, is still in a lot of people's heads, and we just, It's a lot of work to get that messaging that like porn and masturbation can be like healthy and an additive part of a sex life, which is what the research is currently showing, is like porn usage is really like additive for a relationship in most cases. um People just like can't, they love to monitor, they love to watch everything, and they want to be the center of their partner's world, and they really taken in that message of like the one and only, and like if you're a good partner you're going to be everything to this person, not going to need or want for anything else. And this is sort of a smack in the face that that is not always the case, and that that doesn't have to be a bad thing. And I think how you feel about it like how do I say this exactly? Like, it's like, you know what I was talking about, the example of like if you tell someone the conversation is going to be a big deal, they act like it's a big deal. I think a similar thing happens with this too, where like if you can, like outside of maybe extreme cases where we're dealing with like maladaptive coping mechanisms, or maybe the person has like some kind of compulsion issue, like sort of like an OCD, like compulsion habit with it, or something like that, which is a more extreme case. For the most part, I think if we were able to talk to people about this as like being a healthy thing, it would be a lot better for folks, because it doesn't have to take away anything. It doesn't mean that you're bad or wrong or that you're not a good enough partner. And because if you take on the belief that like, you know, what I'm doing is fine, it's the other person who's doing something wrong because they're doing this bad, icky, wrong thing, then you don't have to change yourself. You don't have to learn how to become more comfortable with this or how to let go or anything. You can just keep doing things the way you've been doing them. I can't say I've known anyone who says that cheating just isn't ever a thing, but maybe that's just the groups I'm a part of. Maybe I've avoided being around that segment of humanity. Yes, and I mean exactly with kink too. Like a lot of it is like pure fantasy, which is why I think it's funny that people. Well, I don't know if it's funny necessarily. Like I feel bad mostly, but people get very stirred up about like, oh my god, like the woman in the porn icon I'm watching looks totally different from me, and so therefore he must not really be attracted to me because we don't look the same. And it's like, well, if we're just talking about regular vanilla porn, uh, I like we can't really make any judgment calls on that. Now, if you find your partner's porn folder and next to the taxes folder, there's a hot blonde lady folder and you're a brunette and the only porn he has downloaded is all blonde women, like all of it's blonde women. I would understand that. I'm like, I feel like, why does he have it? Like, why is there a focus on this? This is very interesting. Um, but I don't think that's like most people. And like, yeah, with kink, it's like, of course you're gonna like, you know, like half the people I know in the kink scene are like really into furry stuff. Like, there's so many different fantastical things you can explore through erotica and porn that are kinky that you cannot do in real life, that you wouldn't want to do in real life. So like, yeah, of course you're gonna indulge in those things in other facets of your life. Whereas like other like more vanilla porn, I think it's seen as more of a replacement because they're seen as more synonymous. But yeah. I've noticed is that there is a shift from people look for reasons to stay in a relationship to people look for reasons to leave. Um, yeah, I don't know. I've had thoughts about that with like COVID relationships, and like a lot of like COVID relationships ending, and like wondering if people like are like, well, this didn't really make me happy, so I'm not gonna stay, even if I could like work on it. I don't know. I feel like I don't know how to have a conversation about that without it coming across like it's like, oh, the kids these days, they're so lazy. They don't know the value of hard work. Because I think people do. But I also think that so many of us are so exhausted by the everyday stress of existence that, like, we don't really have time for, like, the stress of, like, grinding to make a marriage work. I think also, especially the younger folk, with how much easier it's been in so many places to get access to divorce and like people actually leaving like bad spouses who cheated on them or did other things that were wrong or violated an agreement they had. Um, I have people that grew up that either saw family members get divorced, or their parents got divorced, or their friend's family got divorced. And so, like, separation, I think, is also a lot more normalized than it was like 40, 50 years ago, where, like, yeah, I mean, it happened, but it was usually kind of shameful. People didn't really want to talk about it. It was usually for, like, really big, extreme things. Whereas now, like, not just celebrities, but, like, people just, like, get divorced and maybe never really know the reason why. And so I think people are, like, they feel more able to, like, leave relationships. But I don't know. I feel like people being willing to step away from things and being able to step away from things that aren't working for them. I feel like I would feel cautious about critiquing that, just because, like, I don't know what's going on in other people's lives. I think it's generally good that more people feel empowered um, to be able to walk away from something that's not serving them. Because, like, otherwise, like, if it's not really for you and you're just, like, trying and 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 trying to make it work and it's not working, like, you're ultimately really just, like, wasting everyone's time, right? Yeah, and also people want something different. Like, I think that's probably the easiest explanation is, like, if you've been monogamous for 15 years and, like, you catch your spouse watching porn and they look different from you, it's probably just because they like variety. Like, that's, like, a huge thing. Like, Justin Miller did survey research about this, and, like, variety and novelty was, like, a huge part of a lot, especially men's sexuality. Which is, like, sometimes that's, like, hard to hear, because you do want to be that, like, one special person where it's like, oh, but I'm special and I'm, like, your ideal and I'm, like, exactly what you're looking for. And then to be confronted with that not actually being, like, the only thing they ever want ever is like, oh, well, like, I thought I was special and now I'm not special, and, like, dealing with that's, like, an emotional journey. Anyways, I guess controversial porn opinions. I don't. Okay, that was, like, we took a lot of different. We talked about mono and poly folks in the kink scene, and suddenly we're talking about porn consumption. I've actually been doing a bit of research about that for a video I'm working on, so it's been on my brain lately. Um, Arlo asks, how do you manage sub drop in a long distance relationship? Sir and I live a few hours apart. We have a 24/7 dynamic that is most present during our visits every 2 weeks or so. I drop every time I return home. Yes. I have a lot of personal experience with this. I had a partner who lived like within, like, 2 hours. I'm not gonna say exactly how long, but, like, they lived within a few hours of me, and I would drive to see them every weekend, and we would spend every weekend together. And then on Sunday evening, I would drive home, and it was always the worst thing ever. And I hated leaving every single time, and I would, like, cry, and I hated it. I hated having to leave. It was the worst. Um, and so I would, especially if we did, like, parties that weekend, or we did stuff at at their place over the weekend, I would definitely be wary about drop. And usually what we would do is, like, Sunday was, like, low key, like, I'm gonna make him brunch, we're gonna, like, do something outside, we're gonna, like, play with the dog, we're gonna have just, like, low key, like, aftercare day. And that really mitigated a lot of stuff for me. Also, it really helped that we could text. Like, it was pretty easy for us to text during the day and, like, have contact, so we weren't really ever out of contact with each other. But it was rough. It was definitely really rough. And if you're specifically dropping when you returned home, I think maybe it's, like, having more time during your visits for aftercare beforehand, like, before you actually leave, and then, like, building up stuff that you can look forward to for when you return home. And I'm not sure exactly what you're experiencing for drop. Is it, like, physical symptoms, mental symptoms, both, just, like, general lethargy, tiredness? What generally helps me, having adequate sleep, so, like, getting to bed at a good time, sleeping for enough hours, drinking enough water, and, having electrolytes, having a good healthy meal, maybe meal prep some stuff to have ready for yourself when you get back. Just you do have that kind of ready for yourself. And then, like, have ways to remind yourself of the dynamic when you're not there, like, fully present with it. Like maybe your partner can like write you a note to read that you can open like when you get home. It's like a reminder of your relationship and that they're thinking about you and that they're with you in spirit. They're not really with you there in person. Video calls too. Like I mean, we live in an age of so much technology. So if you want to, you could also very easily like set up a video call like Monday night after work, just like check in, you know, just talk and feel that connection. Because I think what makes sub drop so much harder over long distance is it's that severing of that physical emotional connection. And if you can have things that help you stay connected to that despite the distance as much as possible, I think that kind of also helps mitigate it a little bit. But also, like, you just might be the kind of person who's like more sensitive to drop. So maybe that means like lowering the intensity level of like maybe what you're doing for a week and just like see if that changes anything, because like this could be something that it happens irrespective of what you're going through and like what you're doing during the time you're together. Or maybe it's like, oh well, we're just like playing, you know, we're playing for, you know, 3 days straight, we're doing all kinds of scenes. It's like the collective sub drop is, you know, knocking me out. But if we have like maybe a little bit more of like a quiet subtler weekend, then it's easier and like okay, it's like no big deal. Uh, is there a fair number of FFM triads? So female, female, male triads. I don't know. I guess fair meaning like, is there like a sizable amount? Not really. All of the triads I know are like people I know from the internet that like have made it their personality and their livelihood to like be somebody in like a triad. I don't think that they're actually really that common. Is Pavlovian conditioning a thing in puppy play? Seems like they would go hand in hand. Oh, like they mean like the classic like food bell situation. Um, I have not personally, uh, like seen anyone replicate that exact study like in a pet play context. But Pavlovian conditioning, like conditioning in general, is part of BDSM. Like the power exchange relationships, conditioning is all over the place. People love that. Behavior modification is definitely a big deal. I do kind of like the idea of like doing a scene where you're just recreating Pavlov's experiments. Um, what's I'm trying to think of like there's a term for conditioning. Um, um, there was also yeah, I'm a fair bit out from my psych undergrad class where we talked about like classical and like operant conditioning and like all of that. So I don't remember the exact term, but there was uh there's another term that's also like or there's also a response that's being developed in the human who is the one that is like ringing the bell and like providing the food too, which I think is interesting. I mean, I feel like looking at the setup for the dog like research thing, I feel like we've got equipment that could definitely work for this in like kink setting. Yes, did Pablo ever think of feeding his dog when he heard the bell? Yeah, I think that, and maybe that's the thing I'm thinking of is like, oh, it's not only just like the recipient, it's also the person who's performing the behavior that's like also developing the association. Um, Maybe that's what it is. I also remember that intermittent reinforcement is the strongest form of reinforcement. Operant conditioning is a learning process where voluntary behaviors are modified by the association of the addition of a reward or adverse or reverse stimuli. The frequency or duration of the behavior may increase through reinforcement or decrease through punishment, I assume, is the rest of that. Whereas classical conditioning is a behavior procedure in which a biologically potent physiological stimulus like food is paired with a neutral stimulus like the sound of a musical triangle, the term classical conditioning refers to the process of an automatic conditioning response that is paired with a specific stimulus. So there you go. There you go. That's a summary. But like, especially like operant conditioning is like very, very common in kink stuff. Rewards, punishments, all of them. Why? Okay, can we maybe think just for like a second why 18 may not be an arbitrary role in this situation? This is so stupid. Okay. So silly. Well, thank you for waiting to join us, Julian. Glad you could make it. Also, happy belated 18th birthday. Okay, let's get to another question here. Am I weird for being into mommy dom little boy as a man? Is it a turnoff for most women being a little or a submissive male? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I do think that being a submissive man is not something that, like, the average vanilla woman is going to appreciate. But if you're talking about dominant women, like, they're, like, sure. Like, lots of dominant women would love to have a submissive man that they could, like, dress up in cute clothes and, like, baby and take care of. I don't think it's a turnoff for kinky women that are dominant or tops. I think it's a turnoff for vanilla women because they're vanilla. In the same way that, like, well, I mean, I think vanilla men are a lot more willing to, like, adapt and be flexible when their partner says they're kinky, if their partner is a submissive woman or just submissive. If their partner is dominant, most vanilla men are like, absolutely not. Or, like, they might try it just to see what it's like, but they're not really ever going to be comfortable with it. But yeah, I don't think it's weird. I think it's very, very common. Like, from what I remember seeing, especially ABDL, which I know is not the same thing as mommy dom little boy. Like, ABDL is a very, very common thing, and in, I would say, online, it's definitely less common to see mommy dom little boy stuff. But in the actual scene, like going to events, I'd say it's much more mixed. You get a lot of people that are cis women, you get a lot of trans folk, you get a lot of non-binary folk, and you get a lot of just cis men and also trans men too that are into little boy stuff. So it all, which I realize like sounds bad saying it like that, but like little boy, like role play in like a mommy dom little boy context. That's all different things across the spectrum. Usually events I've seen for littles are all different sorts of people, all over the place, doing all different stuff. Okay. Oh, okay. I definitely have missed some questions. I'm sorry. I'm at the top of the chat now. I apologize. I've not been able to see everything, but the next question I have, and if I skipped your question, feel free to like re-ask it in like the next like, wait like 15 minutes, wait till we're at like 7:30, then you can like re-ask it. I think I missed part of Lexi's question. It was something about something a friend said, dealing with feelings. I think that first part of the question got cut off, unfortunately. But Audrey asks, would you ever do a subscriber story segment on your channel, like where people anonymously send in their stories from being in the kink community, read and give advice? I would love to do that. That sounds like a great idea for a segment. I feel have I seen anyone like do like that in like a vanilla? And I mean, I've seen people react to Reddit stories. like people doing stuff. I like that idea though of like sending in anonymous stories. And like giving advice or just like sharing stuff that have happened. Yeah, that sounds great. I can even like keep up. I know that What's a Safe Word does something for like sex horror stories for like Halloween, and they keep up a Google thing and they just like leave it up all year and like people send in their stuff. So that seems like a great option. I'll look into that. I need to do that because I've had like a couple of video ideas today that I wanna write down. That would be like a Google form, and then the other thing I wanted to do. There we go. Perfect. Okay. It's on the list. You are officially on the actual written list that I actually keep of video ideas. It is real, believe it or not. Oh, it was about a friend saying I was not a homemaker but a sugar baby. I mean, I get my gut instinct is that is dumb. I don't like I think you have to be you have to be aware enough to know the language to say that. But you can't be much more aware than that because it's like that is not like I almost like don't even know like even just hearing it secondhand, I'm like, how do I like what does that mean? Like what are they like a sugar babying, right, is like a form of sex work, and it's where women, usually young women, um, sell like dates or companionship that usually involve sex. I'm saying that because people get into sugar babying and then they're surprised when their clients expect them to have sex, and it's like, yep, that's also you are a sex worker. That is part of the agreement. As like a doing the job, maybe not with this specific person, but in general. But anyways, shoot, what was I thinking of? Yeah, like it's like sugar babying is like its own like it's a whole own thing where like you're exchanging like gifts and money for like sexual favors and companionship. But you're like actually married to your partner and you live together and you actually make a home to get like I mean, it sounds like somebody's kind of salty. They don't really have somebody waiting at home for them. You know what I mean? Like somebody's mad they can't be living that life. Yeah. It's questioning the 18 plus thing is just silly. Like if you're doing that, we're just gonna mute you, and if you insist on it, you will be blocked. So, yeah, being unable to understand a rule as simple as 18 plus only is quite concerning. Yeah, like don't make this difficult, bro. Like you can't I don't know, like you can't make a FetLife account if you're not 18. You can't go to Munches if you're not 18. You can't go to kink events if you're not like there's basically no place where you can like access kink community or be part of the community without being an adult, and I don't think that minors should be like participating in kink. I just feel like that's not a good idea. Sorry, I thought I blocked that person already. I hope I didn't accidentally I hope I didn't accidentally uh like block someone else by accident. Oh, whoops. Sorry. I think I my bad. The chat scrolled while I was trying to take care of somebody that was being annoying in the chat, and I accidentally blocked somebody else by mistake because the chat scrolled while I was clicking the button and I didn't realize it. So I apologize, Charlotte. You're not actually blocked from the channel. I missed. The only thing you did wrong was typing something that was next to somebody else who was being an asshole for no reason. Anyways, we had contributing, just riveting contributions to the discourse. I'm like, oh no, your brain isn't developed until 25. Okay. Well, my bad. Thank you for all you do for the community. Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. Kind of put up with this bullshit. Just kidding. It's not that big of a deal. It's just funny that it's like you're trying to get under people's skin, but then really the only thing you're doing is like showing everyone how immature you are, and like how you know, just like, bro, what is this, like 2010? Like, you really think you're doing something there? All right. Which sites / applications do you recommend for chatting with people from the BDSM community? FetLife is good for finding events. I don't really use it as like an active platform that much these days, just because it's not something I like. I find I enjoy engaging with like on a super regular basis. Like, I just feel like where I live, like every single time I'm on there's just like a massive amount of like insane community drama, and like I don't trust anyone who operates any fucking anything where I live. So I don't really go on it for that reason. But there's tons of dungeons, special interest groups, local events that are all on there. So is like the main way to like find events. And also really good for finding online classes and educational resources too. And specialty groups, usually the older ones, will have like pinned resources that have like resource lists and like different flogger manufacturers. And oh my gosh, you were at the peak of cuteness. I could pluck you right now at the peak of cuteness, because that's what you are. Adorable. Literally the cutest dog to ever live. I've heard other people recommend the Bloom community app. I think if you're in like New York or the Bay Area, there's more events on there. I feel like that's more of like an open relationship, like poly sort of thing, the Bloom community app. But I've heard of it before, and I know that there's like events and people who work with that are on there. And then for other places, I mean, like Field is my favorite like kinky dating app, but those are probably the three that I would go for like chatting with people. Also, FetLife is good for finding like groups that you can go to that'll have munches or online munches or Discord chats, like local Discord chats, and all of those are good. The thought of joining FetLife scares me. I'm scared of the messages I might get from randos. I don't think I'm currently having the mental bandwidth to deal with that. You should really watch the video I made on FetLife more recently. You can make it so like no one can message you. Like, you can make it so you have to be friends to be able to send a message. Like, you can really, really make your profile inaccessible to people. You can make it so no one can comment on your posts. You can make it so no one can comment on your photos. You can make it so it's only friends. You can really, you can do a lot more these days with managing rando comments. I just started using Bloom, and there's a lot of events on there. Yeah, I haven't looked into it too much. She does not really like toys. She has a squeaky cupcake that she will run and grab occasionally and kind of like toss it around, but she doesn't really want to play with that. She wants to play with me, and she'll run and grab it and like toss it around as like an opening salvo to like get me to play with her. I don't think she ever, because she wasn't a pet. She was like a breeding dog until I got her. And so she's only been like a pet for the last couple of years. And I don't know, it's very sad. I don't know if she was ever around toys before. I don't think she learned how to play with toys. She's also very passive. And I think even if there were toys around, I think she would have had them instantly taken away from her. She loves treats though. She's over the moon. Every time she gets a treat, it's the best moment of her entire life. Every single time. But toys, she's like, meh. She much prefers running after the squirrels in the yard. That's like her favorite activity. I don't have links to any apps. I just know that it's called like the Bloom community app, and like I think I maybe have Field, like a link to Field in the description box, but I don't really like, how do I link to an app from my desktop? How is that? I don't even know how you do that. I guess you'd link to is there a web browser version of the Play Store? I don't know. Also, FetLife does not have an app. Well, they kind of have an app, but they don't really have an official app because App Store rules, which is like the dumbest thing ever. That was like the beginning of the end. I feel like for technology freedom was you have to have Daddy Apple or whoever approve your app before you can put something on your phone. Like, how is this different than the web browser? This is how I feel about it. Silly. I guess it's enabling me to shirk living in the real world. That's so silly. She thinks I stay home because I don't want to have the responsibility of being an independent adult. That's not true because I do plenty of productive and positive things for both him and my community and my family and myself. Yeah, I mean, I was telling her to screw off. I mean, maybe don't say that if you value your friendship. I think if that was me and I had a friend that was like, okay, I'm going to take it in the most positive, well-intentioned way that a person could mean it, which is they're legitimately worried about me using my relationship as a form of escapism to not have to deal with the world. And I don't know if there's maybe a reason for why she thinks that, or like maybe something in my past behavior that would justify that. But I would just be like, hey, I appreciate your concern. I understand that you're worried that I may be using this relationship in ways that are unhealthy for me. And while I appreciate your concern, what I'm doing is working for me. This feels healthy. I'm fulfilled. My partner's fulfilled, and I mean, I guess if you wanted to, you could maybe tell her if you have like certain safeguards in place for like checking yourself. Like if you have like somebody who's like an accountability person in the kink scene or something, or like maybe you have regular relationship check-ins, or like you have some kind of way to be like, hey, here's what we're doing to make sure that we're staying on the same path and we're like keeping our intentions in mind, which is this positive, productive thing in both of our lives. And like ultimately, it's something that we both like. We're adults, and I hope that you can respect my decision as my friend to be in this relationship and trust that I'm not doing it for the negative reasons you might be afraid of. And if you have more questions about like that, I'm open to questions. Or maybe you're not, and you're like, I'm gonna set a boundary around this. I don't really want to have this conversation again. If you value my friendship, you won't bring this up. That would be a little harsh, but I think you can be, and you would certainly have a right to just say, hey, here's what it is, respect it or don't. If you have a problem with it, keep it to yourself, unless you have some kind of concrete belief that I am in harm or danger right now, right? Like if they find out that like, I don't know. I don't even know what they'd be worried about that would be like that. I mean, I guess I don't know. It's like from what you've told me about your partner, I don't have any worries about anything like going sideways, but maybe they don't know them that well. But maybe you'd have some kind of protocol in place for like, well, if you're really worried about it and you are my friends, here's, I'll have, a check-in or something. We can just talk about the relationship frankly and like how well it's going. But I just don't think that's going to be a problem. I just feel like they don't really have a reason to worry. I don't. I certainly know a lot of people in the kink scene who realized they were into kink from a younger age, like especially for, I think actually even I've seen studies about this. Um, um, Dominant men, I think maybe even somewhat because of their porn consumption and like how like younger men start like watching porn at like a relatively young age and like exploring that like physically like earlier on than a lot of women do. I certainly know a lot of people that knew maybe from like 13, 14 onward that they were kinky and had unconventional interests because of their porn consumption habits, and that kind of clued them in that they were different. They weren't necessarily actively doing anything with partners outside of maybe like dirty talk, or like when they were older teenagers, they were maybe like experimenting, in the way that all teenagers experiment to some extent, at least ones that are sexually active with the things that they're doing. Most women I know, they got into the scene a little bit later. Like I think it's much more common for women to discover that interest kind of like early young adulthood, like 18, 19, 20, kind of the early 20s. And versus like I think men discovered a lot longer, but I don't think necessarily they're, especially because like school takes up a lot of time and energy, and if you can't drive yourself and you got like homework to do and you're doing all this stuff, you don't necessarily have time to engage in that level of recreational activity. Nor do I think that it would be a good idea. I do not encourage anyone who is a young, well, who is, especially no one who's a minor, I do not encourage any minors to participate in kink on any level. I think learning about it is fine. I think engaging with it in
N. Dickman donated $18.22. Just thanks for the streams and here's to more and better local events.
Oh, thank you. Just thanks for the streams. And here's to more and better local events. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Thank you. Rounding up the donation numbers. I love it. But yeah, I think that's basically what I mean by that. I think it's just, there's nothing, I don't really think you gain anything by like experimenting at a younger age. I just don't think that there's any like benefit to that outweighs the massive cost and risk that goes along with that. I feel like it's much better to use your younger years to like learn about like consent and your physical boundaries and communication, and like practice kind of the more vanilla side of having relationships versus like, you know, going balls to the wall. It's okay. I like it actually that it's at one set. That's like kind of funny actually. I like it. It reminds me of like an infomercial. For the low price of $189.99, you too can obtain the Bandita Ultimate Treat Package. Yes, thank you. It probably did get deleted, so I appreciate you bringing it up again, Charlotte. I asked a question that may have got deleted. I said I could ask again. Yeah, go ahead. How could you help with not adding mental load to a dom? When I ask him, all he says is that you have eyes. I don't. What does that? Wow. Okay, I'm also confused by that. All he says is that you have eyes. I guess that means that like you should be able to tell what he needs, or like tell if you're doing too much or not doing enough. Okay. I feel like I'm a no nonsense kind of lady at this point in my life and in my journey. I like being direct. I like just being like, hey, this is how it is. You know, if you know, call it out. I feel like I'd probably say, you know, sir, Dom, whatever name, you know, it's really important to me that I don't add unnecessary stress to your life. And it does feel like I'm being dismissed for my concerns when I ask, and then you don't actually directly answer me. You answer me kind of sidelong, and I just want to have a straight answer, and I apologize if I haven't, you know, really taken in what you said before. Can you give me some criteria of like what I should be looking for like adding too much mental load or not? Like, and it might just be that he needs you to take it on faith that he'll tell you when it's getting to be too much. Like maybe it's like he's totally fine and you're insecure about like seeming too needy or like needing too much of his time, or you know, it's making him think too much about you or whatever reason. And like maybe she'll find that, or maybe you have a partner who's dealing with a lot of stress or depression or anxiety, and you don't want them to take away from themselves at, you know, adding something to you. Oh, thank you, Lexi. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate you all. You guys are so great. We have such a great community here, and I love it. Not gonna lie, such a snarky, passive-aggressive response. I would just literally cry. I hope we're not talking about my response I'm coming up with now. I'm not trying to be passive-aggressive. But yeah, they're like, you have eyes. Like, I get that. I've been there where I've had a partner where they're like, they act like this is the first time we've had a conversation. It's like, no, we've talked about this like 50 times. And it's like, you just got to get it into your brain. But like some people, especially if you have a partner that has like ADHD or like other things, it can actually take a really long time for them to like get it fully in their head because their brain is just different. So like if you have a partner that is neurodivergent, has ADHD or whatever, like it can just take repetition for it to fully get in, and that should be a known thing. Like, I should know what I should be doing when I ask. Oh, okay. To me, that is very silly. I understand they would be frustrated. I feel like you need to problem solve this with them, and they should be willing to problem solve it to make it better for everyone involved. So that to me would look like, okay, how can we reduce mental load? You need to establish some like daily standing orders, like commonly understood operating procedure stuff. How did you find safe places to play and explore kink? I will answer that in a moment. Thank you very much for your question. Yeah, I just if I saw they're approaching you, I would just say, okay, I know we've talked about this. I understand you're frustrated. I just want to go through this kind of one more time and make this so it's better for both of us. And can you like, or even maybe don't even have them write, because that maybe would be too much work for them. Maybe you offer to write down as they're telling you, like what they expect from you, like on a daily basis, an hourly basis, a weekly, whatever it is, right? Weekly basis, whatever. Have them write it all down. Like have them tell you, like the signs for the things that they want, like how they communicate certain stuff. Like obviously, if I leave my coffee cup on the side of the countertop, you should know that I want to be refilled. Like, talk about those things. So the one thing that is always true, kink, vanilla, mono, poly, doesn't matter, any relationship, literally ever. You cannot assume that your partner knows what you're communicating. Sometimes, even if you are literally saying, please get me a glass of water, because it's like, well, which glass? Do you literally mean a glass, or would you mind having it in a mug? Do you want ice or not? Do you prefer it with lemon? Do you want it to be room temperature, ice cold? Like, there's variance in there that is worth discussing. Yes. As somebody with ADHD, you need to be tolerant and thankful to anybody who works with you in terms of repeating things and so on. Yeah, it definitely goes both ways for sure. Mm-hmm. Weekly tithe to the cult. No. People are going to think you're being serious, but I appreciate it. Thank you. Can you be into cults? I mean, I think that's maybe proof positive that you're not actually in a cult, because, like, you can't really be in two at once, can you? I'm in a cult to my dog, so really, we're just, like, the cult of my dog. Who... she can't really be a cult leader because I don't give her enough cheese, I think, for her to actually be a cult leader to her liking. I live in a mountainous place in Brazil. No community here. My ex initiated me as a dom. I was very young and a virgin. I just did what she was told. That sounds rough. Now nothing quite works for me. Oh. Yeah, if you're in like a really remote part of Brazil, I mean, there's like really, really remote parts of Brazil, but like, you know, a non-cosmopolitan area of Brazil. I don't know what I do. Let me think about that, because I have a list of questions in my head I need to like go through. I appreciate that though. I will get to that. Wait, time out. You have to communicate. Yeah, I know. You do have to communicate. I'm very sorry. You do have to talk. Like, you do have to, like, at least once, okay? At least once in a power exchange relationship, in order to have it, in my opinion, you need to be willing to sit down and have, like, a long-ass conversation about, like, what are our respective expectations for this relationship in terms of body language, communication style, daily rituals, daily expectations, behavior patterns, like all of it, right? Like, do they expect you to pick up the laundry from the floor? Do they expect you to call them on your lunch break? Like, talk about all of that. And if they're not willing to communicate with you as a dominant partner where their comfort level is, what their boundaries are, what their expectations are, they're not really that good of a dom. And that's not on you. That's on them for being a lazy communicator, and it's not your fault. That's my opinion. Okay, so let me, let's see, the last question that I got, there's now a shopping tab on here. What the fuck is that? Why is there a shopping? I apparently, can tag things for people to shop during my live stream. The dystopian future is here now. Here we go. How do you find safe places to play and explore kink? Um, there's also like I like thumbs up. I don't know why there like upvotes underneath these things. Okay. How do you find safe places to play and explore kink? Um, I guess step one I kind of talked about already, which is like FetLife is your main hub for finding events. And then step two is finding events when you're on the website and then checking out those events in detail, right? Looking at who runs it, who is RSVP'd, where is it, how, like, are the people who are RSVP'd, what do their profiles look like? That would be what I would look for. I would look for, okay, here is, a munch and there's 4 people RSVP'd and they're all blank profiles. That has a very different vibe from like a munch that you can see is like on the person who runs it on their page. You can see they have that munch pre-planned for like the next 6 months in advance. They have a set description. It's very detailed. Their profile is very detailed. They have like 20 people RSVP'd. They seem like actual people who participate in the scene. They've got profile pictures and like they seem like real. And then I think munches are probably the best entry point for going out and like meeting people and getting a sense for a local scene and talking to folk. And it might take a couple times, especially if you're in like a big city. There will be munches galore to choose from. You will like at least especially if you're willing to like drive for a bit or you have like options for transit. You can go around and explore and like find different places to go to, and then they can tell you what their opinion is on like the different venues in the area. It's really hard to consistently know like where like the safe places are, who the safe people are, because there is unfortunately a fair amount of politicking in the BDSM scene, and so there are people who will say, so and so isn't a safe place, and actually our dungeon that we run is much better and safer. And that is probably most of the time true, but it could also be the case that they actually have a very personal beef with the owner of the other place that's like totally unrelated to safety, and it's like because they used to date 15 years ago and like the breakup was bad, and like it's very so much drama, all of the drama. And so you kind of have to take it on people's word, like where is safe and not. But then also, there are people who will paint everywhere else as dangerous and like come to my place because I'm the only one who actually knows what they're talking about and what they're doing. And so if they're bad mouthing everywhere else and they're like, oh no, that person's bad. Nope, everything here is only I am good and safe. That's a warning sign. And then just slowly work your way up, munches to like social events, to play parties where you just observe. And ideally, hopefully, you'll find places that have things like a website and, just have some kind of presence you can go from. If you're going to a place, thank you, Blood Cards. I just wanted to add some chaos to the count before I leave. They donated $6.66. Keep up the good work. Stay safe out there. Yes, thank you. Thank you for hanging out with me this evening. I really appreciate it. We've been having like a bop in chat today. I love it. It's great. We've covered so much ground. We're just having a great time. Listen, apparently y'all love the 4K. I don't know. It's always great when my stream actually starts, like the way that I plan on it starting. Like the bitrate and everything actually works. You can't guarantee that you're gonna find a safe place, but I think if you go out and you try enough, it'll be okay. As long as you don't as long as you have your own transportation, you have an easy way to leave, and you're not like promising to play with anybody. Like it's not like if you get a bad vibe going into a place, and we talked about this last week. If you get a bad vibe going into a place, you can just leave. You don't have to stay. You're under no obligation. I've certainly been to events before where it's like I really wanted to like this place or these people or whatever, and like I went and just like something like it wasn't that necessarily the people were bad or anyone was mean or there were any like massive red flags. It was just something about it didn't quite fit right, and then that's you move on. You try something else. You do something else. So to get back to the nothing quite works for me question, um, I mean, I feel like that's really hard. I don't really know if there's any like easy answers I can give you for like dealing with that. I think maybe reading between the lines here slightly, we may be saying that now that you have this experience doing kink, the other things maybe aren't arousing to you. The thing I have heard, and I'm not an expert at this, so please, if I'm wrong, correct me or like do your own research. Um, Having a time period of celibacy, not engaging in certain types of content, and then intentionally like restarting by like replacing the things that you used to get off with like whatever the new thing you want to be able to enjoy is. I think that'll help, and just like having that time period of rest makes you more likely to respond to that other stimulus compared to like maybe what you are habitually used to being able to enjoy. And that can, even if it maybe won't get rid of the other thing, it'll help something else also be like enjoyable for you. But also like if you are experiencing distress because of what you went through that with that previous partner, I feel like you're trapped in being a dom. I don't imagine you have a lot of access to like mental health care resources, but that would be, especially ones that are like kink aware. I think that would probably be my actual step. Would be that, but I don't know. It's really hard to research stuff like this because a lot of it is like there's kind of this moral panic over like people being ruined by porn and porn addiction. And I think that by and large isn't helpful for most people. I don't think that really teaches anyone anything other than like how to be trapped in a shame spiral and feel like a failure. And I don't think that would actually be productive. But that's a big one. So I will if I think of anything else, I'll add it later on the stream. But for now, I think that's what my thoughts are on that. Okay. Answer the question about sites. Answer the question about what I would study if I went back to school. Yes, knowing what everyone really wants and put boundaries that works for both parties is key. The amount of times monogamous people have pressured me to become monogamous is huge, and I know it hurts the other way around. Yes, that's like the theme of the stream tonight. I feel like it's just like having clear, firm boundaries. Like if you don't want to be pressured into doing something, say it early, say it often, be a broken record. I think where people run into trouble, this is actually where I get into the whole like intermittent reinforcement is the worst kind because it's the most reinforcing. Like if you teach people that, you're going to say no the first time, the second time, the third time, but maybe when you get to the fourth, fifth, or sixth time, you might start saying yes instead. They're just going to ask, and they're gonna speed run until they've asked you a bunch, and then they're gonna be like, oh, now, and they might even not realize they're doing this. They're just trying to get to the answer they want to hear and the thing that makes them comfortable. So don't teach people that they can treat you like that they can just they try hard enough they can compromise your boundaries or get you to compromise on your own boundaries with yourself and with them. You just have to be like, nope, I don't want to do that. Nope, I don't want to do that. Nope, just doesn't matter. I know it's kind of that, how like little kids will be like, they'll just like come up and like try to annoy you and like poke, and just like see how many times they can poke you before you snap at them, or like they just try to outlast you with whatever annoying thing they're currently doing, like rolling their eyes or like mimicking your voice, like whatever. Just can't let it get to you. Like, no matter how many times they're doing it, even if they're being really, really annoying, you can't let it get to you. You just have to stay firm, stay cool, stay calm, and know that being cool and calm and collected and staying strong in your boundaries, if they're a bad person, is going to annoy the shit out of them. Because people that are self-centered don't like hearing boundaries. And I mean, like humans in general, we don't really like being told no. So like this isn't universally the case that somebody who does this is like always a bad person. But I think people struggle with that feeling of rejection and like being told no, and like they're very willing to just like, but what about yes? Why won't you just say yes? Why don't you like me? And they get very hurt when they're told no. It's like a big deal. They don't like it. They don't like being told no. They don't like being told that, the thing they want they can't actually have, and like they will do any and all kinds of gymnastics to like make it your problem, that you need to change, that you need to be different, that your boundary is silly, that your boundary is wrong, that they're actually right, that they're normal, just be like them, it's not a big deal, why can't you just compromise on this? And you just have to be a broken record. You cannot compromise, and they're gonna hate it when you just like stay calm and collected and just like repeat it to them, because they expect you to kind of get on their level emotionally and like get activated about it and fight them about it. And if you don't engage in that, it's going to drive them nuts. You just can't reward them. Oh, I see. How do I help make people feel more comfortable attending events? I see. What I look for in an event, if I'm trying to figure if I'm gonna like it or not, I thought like what I said, right? The place who's hosting it or the person hosting it has a complete profile, maybe some kind of FAQ in terms of like, how do I find you guys? How many people attend the event? What's the dress code like? Like somewhere that seems very thorough and thoughtful. Maybe if you have pictures of the event space or a logo or branding or something. I think that's always a really good thing to have. Having some kind of protocol in place, maybe for like, I don't know if this is for a party or a bunch, so maybe have some kind of like a reporting protocol in place, like, hey, did somebody make you uncomfortable at our lunch? Did somebody violate a boundary at our event? We want to know about it. Here's where you can anonymously like submit something if you want us to know about it, or like what you would want from us in terms of dealing with that. Like that is, I think, one of the most complicated things about running an event is navigating that. But just as I think, just having that be an open thing. I think having language that like explicitly talks about being inclusive for people of different genders, different sexual orientations, different relationship styles, different kinks and experience levels. I think that's also really helpful. I wouldn't necessarily get into like performative like allyship, but like just letting people know like, hey, we're an inclusive space for all kinksters of all different kinds, blah blah blah. I think that's always good to know, and that definitely helps me feel more comfortable going to an event. I think just coming across as thoughtful, invested, and somebody who takes safety and comfort seriously goes a long way. Like having an FAQ for newbies, having a way to tell people about the event and where you're hosting it and what that place looks like. And physically at the event, what would you do to like make the event more comfortable for people? I think always having people that are there, like volunteers or whoever. I don't know how you run your thing. I think if you're looking for ways to make people comfortable at events, I think having folks that are like what I would call like a social DM, so people that are there just to monitor like groups having conversations and how people are feeling in the social space, I think that's really, really good, because then that means there's always somebody like watching and be like, okay, is this person, do they look kind of lonely? Does that person seem intimidated by the person they're having a conversation with? You can just kind of like subtly come over and be like, hey, what's going on here? How are we doing, guys? You feeling good? Okay, great. And then you just like check in on them, move on. Also really great for people that are maybe shy and nervous and want to be introduced to people. Having basically, it's like a social DM concierge where it's like, oh, we're helping people find other folks to talk to and helping them, make community, find conversation. And I think that's a big positive. Yeah. Yes, thank you. I was like, I feel like there was something big. I'm not saying accessibility is a big thing. And there's a lot to think about with that, right? Because it's both like, okay, is it wheelchair accessible? How close is it to public transit? What's your lighting situation like? Do you have stairs inside the venue? Is anything ADA compliant? A lot of kink venues aren't, because they're usually in older parts of town where that wasn't a consideration in building codes, 200 years ago. Yeah, definitely accessibility is a big thing to mention there as well, and like specifically like things to know about your place in terms of like stairs, you know, the width of entryways, you know, especially if you're talking about like events, like is there drinking, is there smoking, like is there a specific area for that? Because you know, some people, especially if you're in an area where like a combo kink venue bar is more common, a lot of people, like there's a lot of people in our community who are sober that do not want to be around alcohol at all. So that's another factor maybe to consider there too. I'm just letting people know like what sort of folks go to your space. You know, our space is you know, popular with folks that are, you know, between 20 and 35, but we have attendees from all across the kink spectrum. You know, kind of give people a sense of who's going there, and yeah, I think that's probably what I would do. I think you can kind of flip around from giving people information to trying too hard. You don't want to get into the trying too hard play, because that also is going to seem suspicious. Like, why are you trying so hard to sell me this venue? Yes, sensory friendly. Okay, I think we got time for like one or two more questions. Who will it be? Who will the lucky last question be? I never understood wanting a partner who completely drops their personality. That just doesn't make sense to me, but I know someone who's like that. I prefer someone open to express who they are also. Yeah, I think that's the common opinion for a lot of people. So regarding DIY bondage toys, how safe is it? I've both downloaded and designed some toys, but I'm reluctant to use them in principle because they seem safer since they don't have any complex mechanisms. Yeah, I think the safest DIY bondage toys are the simple ones. If there's any kind of mechanical thing involved, like if there's a lock or something like that, like it gets very complicated very quickly, and I would not like self DIY that unless you're like a, you know, an advanced woodworker, you have experience making stuff like that in a different, like, I mean, it doesn't really matter if it's in a kink context or not, but unless you have experience making that, I wouldn't trust it either, just because so many, like, moving parts, more things to go wrong. But I was thinking, I think if you're doing stuff like robe ties or a bandana or something, I think that's, like, relatively safe. You have to be more concerned with, you know, how easily does this, you know, substance knot? Can I untie it quickly? You know, does it really cinch down? How stretchy is it? Because all of that can make things much more intense than you realize. Like if you're using like a really stretchy cable, like if you're using like I personally would never use a bungee cord for kink, but people do. Like if you're using like a bungee cord, you can get it really tight, and you basically end up like putting a tourniquet on your. I guess that's what the tourniquet is, like the part that like ties off. I don't know. You end up like actually like really really deep. I think that is at minimum uncomfortable for most people, but also it can be, you can end up actually making the knots really really tight, and then those become harder to undo. That was the perfect 10 out of 10 bandita stretch. Just wanted to say thank you for the information and the entertainment before you end the stream. Thank you, you're so welcome. Also, I find it really funny. People will tell me, there's like one person who like comments on my videos, and they like constantly are thinking I'm faking my voice, which is so funny to me because this is literally how my voice sounds. And like the intro sounds different because it's the intro to a YouTube video. That's what happens. We say the same phrase multiple times a week for years and years and years and years and years on end. Like the way that people answer the phone, like that usually sounds different from the rest of the way that we talk. I don't know. This is silly. Like I'm not putting on a voice. This is just how I sound. I did not realize that there was a patent on toilet paper. Okay. Well, I guess checkmate. It has to be the patent holder said it had to be rolled that way, so that's how we have to do it. fun stuff. So I have these two characters who are switches, and they have these characters / dynamics established. How would you introduce a third switch to play with them? Maybe a new set of characters. Oh, I don't know if you necessarily need a new set of characters. Like, if you just wanted to have a third person for them to play with. I don't know if this is like, if your thing you're writing has like parties or like a kink community. I feel like most of the switches I know end up meeting other switches because it's like somebody does a scene, you know, it looks really cool, the third person sees it, and then after they're done with like aftercare and they're like leaving the dungeon, they're like, wow, I just wanted to say really quickly, I loved seeing y'all's scene, it was super fun looking, I've always wanted to try that. You know, if you're going to be here next weekend, could we talk about it more? And then somebody's like, yeah, sure. Here's my FetLife. We can talk about it over text message or DM or whatever you want to. And then they connect that way, and then they end up like building a relationship, get kind of out from there. So I feel like maybe having some kind of like very exhibitionist-y, voyeur-y type situation, and then the partner from there getting really into it, like the third party being like, wow, that's like totally what I want to try doing, and then like them finding the relationship through that. But I guess it depends on the world of the thing you're writing. She is too cute for the internet. She is dangerously cute. She would definitely be a liability to have in the car. If she was in the front seat, which I would never put her in the front seat unless it was an emergency, because she has a little safety doggy seat in the back. You know, she would just be too cute. Are you ignoring me, ma'am? As soon as I end the stream, she's going to figure out that it's time to get dinner, and she's going to be super excited. Okay, I think that's all we have time for tonight, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight on this Friday evening. Stay safe out there. Drink some water. Have fun this weekend. Or relax. I'm at the boss of you. See, look, she knows. She can tell. She knows the cadence of my I'm ending the stream. She knows what's happening. It's going to be everything for tonight. Thank you all so much. We will be here next Friday at 6 o'clock as usual. We'll also be here on Monday on Twitch. And yeah, video this weekend. And I'll talk to you all again soon. Bye. I knew you were going to wake up as soon as I said that it was over. I knew. I could tell. I could tell. Look at this. She's right there. Waiting. There we go. Put that in your scrapbook. Look how cute that is. All right. Are you ready? I know. Okay. I've tortured her for long enough. Okay. Bye. Bye.